Hello everyone, I have another cool old amp here. I thought I'd make a little service video because it's not an amp you see often, but you may have heard about it when you go digging. If you're a real amp hound, you would have heard of the Canadian Traynor Bassmaster, which is their mid-60s version of the Fender Bassman and Marshall JTM 45, which was a small 45 watt head that would drive various cabinets. I suppose 2x15 or 212 or whatever. Traynor had quite a big production line of cabinets and so on. I have an early 66 YBA1 over in the corner there, and it's the earliest version that has a tube rectifier. This one is a slightly later version that is solid state rectifier but also upgraded power section, and that's the YBA1A. It was rated at about 90 watts or so. Don't know if I believe that, but it was the voltages in the power section are about a whole 100 volts higher than the earlier YBA1 model. And looking at it inside, it looks largely the same. At a glance, they look the same. You would need to get into it and see the actual model designation on the little back panel to know the difference. The only difference is indicated by this here, YBA1A, right? So that's the higher powered version. So some people dig these out in Toronto. I used to easily find these for pretty small amounts of money. Me and a buddy had a pair of the YBA1, and they were both from about 66. But this is just a few years later on, same style cabinet, everything, but it just has that higher voltage. So my buddy just imported this into the country, and he gave it to me to give a routine servicing. And now, looking on the outside, it looks like it's been banged up a little bit. No big thing. Some peeling Tolex. The logo is missing. Nothing major. It got bumped in the front here from being transported, I think, or maybe from before. I think this must have been dented in a music store somewhere during use. Right, so looking inside though, this is a virgin amp. I don't see any parts in here that I think have been replaced at any point in time. There's a couple of odd things, like there's this capacitor between the tubes. I think it's a capacitor, I'm not even sure what it is. And it's loose. But everything else up here is stock. All the electrolytics are stock. And that's what I'm in here to replace, because at this length of time the amp is pushing 50, over 50. What's the math on that? 48 years old. I think this one is 48 years old, right? I'm gonna change the electrolytics. So it's really cool. They're very well built. I'm gonna take the camera off and show you how nice these things look on the inside. But before I do that, let me show you what the real asset of these old Traynors is. They have massive transformers. These are made by Hammond, as we know, it's a Canadian company, and so is Hammond. But these are even bigger than the. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous, right? The YBA1, which I have, has huge transformers for its wattage, which has just about 45, 50 watts. This is 90 watts, but again, this is a massive stacks of iron for that wattage. Right, so I mean the current ratings in these must be really high, and they're just, you will never saturate these no matter how you crank them up and play bass through them or whatever. Really good hardware. So let me just take the camera down and show you how close inside. Okay, here's a look to the inside of the chassis. This one came with 6 CA7 tubes. These may be the originals, Sylvanias, right? And I even checked the preamp tubes already, and they have mullered 12AX7s. Well, one, okay, I see one's an RCA, but I can see the two of these Canadian Rogers branded, and those are mullered 12AX7s. So even pretty much only one tube has ever been replaced. Right, so it's very well made inside. I mean, the switchcraft jacks, right, Mallory capacitors. They have the same type of capacitors in it for the signal as what old Marshalls have, which is what we call the mustard caps, right? So people love these to put in their old GTM 45s and JMPs and Plexis and so on, right? Same lamp as a Fender. It shares a lot with Fender. It's got the same type of vulcanized fiberboard tagboard, all in a straight row of terminals. This one has the solid state rectifier, probably a bridge rectifier here at a glance. So I don't know if those are just series full wave. All right, and on the capacitors that I have to change now will be this one over here for the cathode bypass, these two for the bias circuit, and then the voltage in the power section is so high that they have an arrangement of capacitors in series, which is, there's some cans here below, these Mallory's, which are double section. Trying to focus here. Focus, please. Right, Mallory 4040 double section cans, which are easy to replace. And up at the top, they put them in series with these ones here to to get the voltage over the rating is 450, and you're actually operating at about 550. So the plates and screens have these arranged in series sets, and then the others, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, the rest of the preamp and so on is taken care of by actually I'm getting confused because it seems to me that we should have more filtering in this than what I'm seeing here, because I know there's supposed to be a 8 microfarad and another 40 farad. I guess it's all here. I'm just not really interpreting the layout the way that I saw it on the schematic. Right, so that's the next job. In this one, actually I'm kind of confused, to be honest, because I don't think I have the right schematic for this, because I'm seeing a choke. There's a choke mounted at the bottom of the chassis. You see the wires coming out here. But I didn't see a choke in the schematic. I've seen these power resistors, what I would have thought were replacing the choke. So we got a choke, and here are the wires for the choke. Right. So there's some combination of the choke with these power resistors to bring down the voltage after the power tube plates and screens, to bring them down to maybe closer to 400 volts to get down to the voltage needed for the preamp and phase inverter and so on. So pretty much I just have to straightforward replace the capacitors that I see. I'm not doing any other modifications, right? All this beautiful wiring here, nice hand wiring, very, very sturdy cloth wire. This is clearly a better quality wire than what you would see in Fenders. It's just much, much sturdier and stiffer, thick, stiff braiding on the outside. The resistors are carbon film throughout, and in a which is like a Marshall. In a Fender, you'd see carbon composition for these, but this and Marshall would be carbon film, as far as I'm aware. So if you wanted to, you really could tweak these to be identical to a Tweed Bassman or a GTM 45. But because the power circuit is such higher voltage here, I'm not really going to try and make that happen. I'm going to let it just be a Traynor, right? I've been looking around for schematics of this online, and I'm finding a bit of a conflict. I find schematics that have some of these features, but not exact. Some of the schematics appear to be a later version, and some of the schematics are an earlier version. This one seems to be an in-between one that has features of both. It makes me think it's a bit transitional. So let me explain the differences. The earlier models have 7027 power tubes here, and they have a choke, and they have a common cathode bypass capacitor and resistor on the preamp tubes. Okay, so this one has the earlier features of having that common bypass cap and resistor, and the earlier feature of having the choke. But it has the later feature of having 6CA7, and the later schematics that I'm seeing also have more filter sections. They have more dropping resistors and more capacitors filtering the different high voltage sections. This one only has effectively 3 filter sections: power tube plates, power tube screens, and this is filtering the entire preamp, including the phase inverter, which is unusual. Most of these style of amps, the GTM 45 Bassman style amps, usually have at least 4 filter sections: plates, power tube screens, phase inverter as a 3rd filter, and the preamp 4 gain stages, or 4 tube stages as a 4th filter. Sometimes they have a 5th filter for the very first preamp stages. This only has 3, which I've never really seen before on an amp of this type of circuit. But it's got 80 microfarads, which is a lot of filtering, so I guess it can handle it. So this one I really have to look through, because I'm not working with a schematic on this one, because the ones that I see are just they don't cover this, right? This odd component here, at a glance it looks like a capacitor. On schematics it seems to be something of a bank of diodes, like diodes pointing towards each other. It seems to be one of these flyback prevention components, you know. So I've got to dig in now and do some basically just change the capacitors. I have the right parts that could do the substitutions. I'll put these are doubled up cans here. You can see the 2 sections are in parallel with each other. So what they've done is they've taken a 40 can, so 80 microfarads here, in series with 80 microfarads here, and that effectively has 40 microfarads filtering the plates. Same exact thing here, 40 can, series with an 80 can, 40, 80 for the rest of the amp. Because I followed the wrong schematics, basically I didn't quite buy the exact right parts. So what I have is a 100 can for here, and 40 can for here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use 1 can here to come out to 2 different series capacitors like this, and then I'm going to use another can here to substitute this. The only problem right now is these huge blobs of solder attaching the old Mallory style cans is going to be a real bitch to undo, so I'm going to really be fighting to get these cans loose. Other than that, it should be very easy service replacements. I just have to change this and these 2, and that's it. I will put in also a bias adjustment pot. So let's study this a little bit. This is the high voltage winding. We have these big set of triple series diodes, and they go to the first filter section and out to the output transformer primary. Then that goes through a choke, very big Hammond choke, which I'm a little surprised to see here. And then the output of the choke goes to this filter bank and the screens of the output tubes. Next, that goes through this resistor here, which is a pretty big one, 15K, and it drops a lot of voltage because remember, this amp has a very high voltage on the power tubes, right? So this is going to drop it pretty far down, maybe as far as 400 volts to go to the preamps and so on, right? This next big resistor here is actually the screen resistors. Normally you see screen resistors mounted on the sockets, 470 or 1 ohm, 470 or 1k ohm sockets on each of these. But this one is a 1k, a very big 1k 20 watt, that's doing all of the screen current limiting for both, right? And I'm not tempted to change that. I think it it makes sense. So this is gonna stay, this is gonna stay. This next power resistor here was actually for the fan. This amp has a fan mounted on the side of its cabinet, and the little AC connector for it here. This is in it's part of that setup, right? So that's the story. It's a little different to all the others I've seen. And so that's why I figured I'd go ahead and document it. So that's it for now. I'm gonna go ahead and do the work. Okay, a couple hours later, here's the progress I mentioned. I changed the power cord to a 3-prong cord, put in these new capacitor cans, which are serving this left section in series with this is serving the plates. Actually, this is the screens. And then on this right side, this is in series with this, and this is serving the plates, this is serving the screens. This one here is serving the preamp, right? What else did I do? I put in a bias pot. There was a change electrolytics in the bias setup here, and there was a 75k resistor here. I replaced it with a 47k in series with a 50k pot to ground. So I'm sweeping between 50 and 100k there. So that should get me a nice bias adjustment range. Further up, replace just one capacitor by the cathode capacitor on the preamp, and that's it for electrolytics. A couple other little mods I did while I was working on this. I noticed that down in here, this is the output transformers below here, and this is the ground, and I'm not sure if it's a 4 ohm or 8 ohm tap. I think it's 8 according to schematics, but when I was looking down in here, I saw a cut piece of wire that they must have snipped at the factory, right? So I opened up the transformer end bells and reattached this wire. So now what I have is another tap. I believe it's a 16 ohm tap, just because it measured a higher resistance than the one that was there before. So we've either got a 4 and an 8 or an 8 and a 16, and I'm only going to know when I look at the schematics to figure that out, right? Now on these amps, older amps that have older 2-prong cords, which is what I just got rid of, right? Which is an old 2-prong like this. They usually had a ground switch, and what that did was create a virtual ground where the chassis would be grounded through a capacitor to either side of these the AC line, right? And it led to the nickname of the death cap, which is the little capacitor inside. In this case, it was this, right? Because if this shorted, then it would put 120 volts directly on the chassis here, and you would get electrocuted while playing. So this ground switch is really completely obsolete once I did the 3-prong conversion. The 3-prong conversion inside sends the 2 regular AC lines, hot and neutral here, through the fuse and power switch, and then it grounds the chassis through the 3rd wire. So this is obsolete. So what I've done is, because the switch is here, and it's a nice 2-way switch with a very good current rating, I ran the new, before these 2 wires, which were going to the speaker jacks, just went straight to this pair of jacks here. What I've done is now it's 3 wires, ground 4 and 8, or ground 8 and 16. I've run those to this obsolete ground switch, and so this now is a impedance selector. So after you select either one of those impedances, then that proceeds to the output jacks. So I've added in that little feature based on this obsolete part being here and this snipped wire being there. So that's a little bit of luck to add a little more versatility to the amp as far as setting it up properly with speaker cabinets and so on, multiple speaker cabinets. So that's it. I'm not going to fire it up now because it's late and I can't make that noise. So I'm going to tackle this again tomorrow to test everything and then give it a listen, right? So that's it for now. Again, this is following morning, so I'm tackling this Traynor Bassmaster. Done a few little things, cleaned the jacks and just replaced the power light over in the corner there. And I am now just firing it up without any tubes in it to see the voltage out of the rectifier. The standby, it's got a weird standby arrangement in this amp, so we have like stray voltages coming through even when it's on standby. Right, so I'm going to flick that standby switch and see what is the uppermost voltage that is coming out of that rectifier off the load. Okay, let's monitor the voltage is over on the right. Wow, 550 on the money, almost, just a little over 550. So probably sync back to about 535 or so when it's loaded up with tubes. You can see the voltage moving a bit. Now I actually measured my line voltage earlier, and it's exactly at 115, which I thought was a little low. I am accustomed to getting 122 in this workshop for all the years I've been in here, so might have to organize a regulator for the bench. Right, so that's somewhere between 545, 550, and we'll see how it changes when I load it up with tubes now. Firing up again with the tubes in place. Let that warm up for a bit. So I'll be monitoring plate current via some 1 ohm cathode resistors and plate voltage over here, which is really measuring the voltage at the top of this capacitor stack that I described before. The tubes in this, somehow we didn't bother to change the tubes. These are the original, I think they're the original tubes actually. I really don't know why we're sticking with this, but anyway, these are 6CA7s, which are the North American version of EL34s at the time. And I've seen Sylvanias in old Traynors, so I kind of feel these are original. Some pretty good luck with the preamp tubes. 2 of these were Mullard 12AX7s, which in Canada are branded Rogers, right? But you can see when you look at the codes on the glass and so on that they're Mullards. And the other one is an RCA, which is something you'd pretty typically see in a Fender. Right, so I'm going to fire this up and see what happens with the voltages, just keeping the volumes down. Right, so we're monitoring plate voltage and currents, and I'm getting my plate voltage over there. I'm not getting a reading for the plate current, so I might have to stop. I'll double check that. Let me just move this over here. Nope, I'm not getting any current draw from the tubes, so let me stop and see what's going on there. Okay, I sorted out the problem on the little bias pot I put in. I didn't solder the wire there properly, so I wasn't getting. I had too much negative voltage, and it had the tubes locked off cold, right? So here we see 23 milliamps on one of the tubes. When I vary, I can go down, I can go up. The problem with this set is that they're a bit mismatched. So let's say I leave this at 32 or so. It moves around a bit as the voltage stabilizes. If I left that there 32, the other one is probably going to be higher. Yeah, there you go, all the way up to 58. So there's a bit of a mismatch. So I'm going to do some swapping of these 6A7s that I have and see if I can't get a better pair. It's pretty old worn out tubes. So until I test it, that's a successful set of repairs and mods. All I've got to do is sort a better match for the power tubes, set it to the final level, and start play testing it.